Mhm. Hello, hello, hello. What ho? I am your host, Travel Mateus, feeling a little bit inspired, and so we're going to see where this goes. I know that the camera is fixed in a certain position right now. I'm just going to leave it that way. But anyway, yeah, I had a thought and then it was gone. So yeah, I just was feeling inspired, and as I've said in the comment in the for the video, that I sensed the blowing of the wind, and so I threw up the mast, the mizzen mast. I'm not a maritimer. I'm not a mariner. Mariner. I'm not a mariner, but we all are, right? So here we go. Okay, well, whatever. Uh, for those of you who might not know, I spent most of my adult life either in Christian ministry or teaching of some sort, responsibility, position, and it just never solidified. It never manifested. I was thinking about that earlier today. This is the thought that I was having earlier. This is what this is. Love me, love me. I've got a buddy, Mike Loomis, who has been doing some uploads on a consistent basis. And so, for what it's worth, this is where I'm at right now. And I don't know whether or not this is going to be the manifestation of something that is in its genesis right now. So I spent the majority of my life pursuing a religious relationship with a concept of God that I no longer hold to. So that was a story that I chose not to believe in any longer. But for the majority of my life, I believed in a person, being named God, with a son named Jesus Christ, who sent the Holy Spirit. I believe in God the Father Almighty. Like the whole Nicene apostolic thing, I was in it to win it, And that is completely the opposite of where I'm at right now. But that doesn't mean or imply that I'm antagonistic to people who are rich spiritually as Christians, because Christians can be very rich in virtue. I'm not painting a negative picture that way. What I mean to say about my criticism in Christianity is this: the ability to be that within oneself is not something that Christianity as an historic tradition teaches. There is a problem with humanity. You have a problem. No, you don't. But that's what I was taught to believe, that I was a sinner and that nothing I did in and of myself was pleasing to God. I had to come through the precious blood of Jesus Christ. I had to be washed in the blood of the Lamb, just as I am. And I loved those hymns. I loved those hymns. But that was a story that taught me to look without rather than within. And I'm much more of a within kind of a guy now. Don't ever think I'm ever going to go outside myself again, except to hear from you, because that's how human communication happens. Right now, I'm the only one talking because I'm trying to generate an audience around my understanding of existence. I have written what I've written right here in this thing. We'll go over it in a little bit. I have written this because it wasn't written for me. I didn't have this. And I know that there are developmental aspects of our experience along the way where we can't say, well, you can't really run before you learn to crawl. You can't really walk until you swim, all that kind of stuff. So there's an aspect in which the existence that I had to be that this time around. Like for me right now, this is the first time I've ever done this, ever. But I don't think it is. I think I've been here before. I think I've made it this far before, which means I'm going to do it again, only better, because I'm now aware of the whole shenanigans. And the whole shenanigans is the subterfuge of our governing body. We, you and I, are at the mercy, the disposal, we are at the discretion of our governing politicians, which means by acquiescence, we allow them to put into the educational systems what they want to put into the educational system. So when you make fun of people who say, oh, who are they? Travel. Well, you say they all the time. Like, who are they, bro? Did you make this? Did you make this policy? Then that's who they are. Anyone who makes a policy or anyone who writes a textbook, puts in information, leaves information out. How many of you already knew all of this? You don't need me to tell you, right? Our existence has been withheld from us by those who inform us about how our existence has come to get to this point. If you pay attention to all the clues along the way up to this very point, you should be able to look back and say, I don't believe any of that. Right now, right here, right now is where I begin. And how are you ever going to have a problem with me right now? Because my policy is love. My policy is joy, is peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, self-control. If I behave in that way for the rest of my life, who will ever have a charge to level against me? All right. So the writing that happened right here and all of the transmogrification that happened in my awareness, my existence in this morning is now coming to fruition right here. This is the first church service of, I don't even know yet, right? I was calling it the Church of Too Much Fun, TMF, which are my initials and also the initials of one Timotheus. I'm trying to remember what Timothy's middle name is. Timothy Michael, Timothy Matthew. It's not Matthew. I don't think we have the same middle name, but we have the same initials, TMF. And he introduced me to calling himself Too Much Fun. So this is the Church of Too Much Fun, of awareness. All right. I was crafting this sermon. To me, this is a sermon, right? You tell me. This is what I was writing this because I had this moment of inspiration I think I was meditating or something along those lines. And this came out. Backstory. I made a post on Facebook. I don't need to say that it was public. I made a post on Facebook where I said something to the effect that I no longer believed one thing in the same way that I used to believe that Jesus was the only way. Da, 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 da. And a very old friend of mine from college, with whom I had numerous theological discussions and had never a crossword with this woman. You know, she felt compelled to say, but Jesus is the only way. Like, what is it that you think that you're doing other than making an anecdote now in a sermon? You know, you're now an example of just this unaware self. I am clearly on another path. I am never going to go back to, except I am going to go back to it in the next iteration. But in this thread, I'm never going back to asking for help that never came. Why did it never come for me is a matter of psychology. Because I'm not going to say that my experience as a Christian is typical of everybody's experience as a Christian. I mean, I never spoke in tongues. I never laid hands on people. I never healed anybody and blah, blah. Wait a minute. Yes, I did. Figuratively, right? When you care for someone, you can describe it in picturesque and poetic phraseology by saying, let's see, how does the Solomon, I think it was, describing the kisses of a friend, you know? Anyway. Let's go. This is, oh yeah. So she, yeah. Right? I made a post that was just completely innocuous in terms of like, I wasn't when I post what I post it with the intention of someone in the future seeing it, or someone at that moment coming across, is just to be introducing a disequilibrium, you know, something to make you think. And if you don't think at this moment, then that's just like, there's no judgment, absolutely none whatsoever, because there are plenty of things right now that I don't give a smurf about. But that doesn't mean that they're not valid. It doesn't mean that they're not, but I don't need them right now, right? That's the flow of karma. That's the flow of pneuma. That's the flow of the ruach. That is the flow of the ether. That is the flow of the energy of life in which we all exist. If you think about the world in which we exist right now, we will live in a place that is so finely calibrated. Air pressure, temperature. You know, we live in a climate-controlled environment that is on repeat, that is on cycle. We live in a field of energy that we didn't, at least not that I'm aware of. I didn't have anything to do. I just was created by my parents. Created, fashioned, forged, shaped for better, for worse. But let me say something to you right now, in case you haven't had children and are open to the idea. I want you to I want to introduce this concept to you that everything that you are and that your partner is, in combination, genetically, emotionally, intellectually, spiritually, interpersonally, you have an authentic intelligence that is I'm doing this on the fly. You have created a mini you, an authentic intelligence. It's not artificial, it's authentic, it's analog intelligence. Everything goes into that processor that you created. Your tone, your chemistry, your emotional chemistry, your intellectual, your emotional stability. Your emotional stability is going to be a program that you install into your child simply by being you. That awareness ought to just make you go like, oh my God, what have I done? Because in my best intentions, I still, but the grace and the mercy that allows us to forgive ourselves is I did the best with what I had at the age and expression of my awareness. I was doing the best I could. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So then this came out of that awareness. So I'm bringing it back to this woman's response. I make a comment on there just by saying this, I think it was something about the eclipse and it not being the shadow of the earth. And I said, I stopped believing that story about space. I stopped believing that story in the same way that I stopped believing the religious story that I was given. And then she might as well have just said, but the religious story that you were given is true too. Or, is the only way. Like, I used to believe that my religion was the only true religion. So just to peel back the nuance of everything, that's basically what she's declaring. Her religion is still the only one true way, because when I said, I used to believe Jesus was the only way, she said, but he is the only way, which means Christianity is the truth, which means everything else, including what I'm about to say to you right now, is discounted. Why? Because it is not within the context of the Spirit of God. Because I have apostatized. I never liked apostatized, but that's the right way. I have apostatized from the truth. Therefore, nothing I say has validity to it, except it does, because it's the same pooping message of love. So you take back all of the, you don't need Jesus. You don't need Jesus, because the whole message, when you peel back when you take up the off the husk, right? You peel off the husk, and all you're left with are the kernels. Thanks to the Jesus seminar folk. When you get rid of all the religious pomp and circumstance, the only thing you're left with in the Bible is love. And what do you like? The only thing that we need these stories for are as stories for your psychological, my psychological awareness, development, and improvement. That's what all of these stories are. You are Odysseus. You are Perseus. You are Zeus. I mean, there are no gods. There are no gods. There are no archons. I don't believe those stories. You might. I don't. Well, I mean, I'm saying what I'm saying. I don't believe anything I have not experienced myself. Or I mean, I don't know. I don't know anything unless I have direct empirical experience of it. You might tell me something XYZ, an archon will wipe my memory bank, and so the archons are there. And how do you know that there's an archon there? Well, that's just the story of the archons. I mean, that's the story I listened to when I was listening to Bill Carpenter or William Carpenter or Cooper or whatever his name, Bill Cooper. I don't know, man. You're never going to hear me talk about archons or God or anything. You're going to hear me talk about me, myself, and I, and thou, you, because that's with whom I have to do. So we have not been, they have created an educational system where they say, we are given this historical, governmental, anti-religious, keep it church separation of the church is good constitution, all of this BS that they just cram into our adolescent, pre-adolescent minds that are just wanting to love, joy, peace, patience. What is that? That's just like being a kid. Just let a kid be a kid. Oh no, he's got to go to school at the 8. No. Let that little walk-in awareness right there. Let that little, the little trolloping. Maybe that's not the right word. Are you a trollop? That's not the right word. Gallivanting. That little gallivanting toddler is nothing but love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, self-control. Let that kid be a toddler, and there is nothing but love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, and self-control within that little toddler at that toddler's appropriate awareness and stage of development. That's why you just are able to forgive, right? You come across someone in your existence with whom you have a conflict, and that person is not aware of the conflict. I'm going to say that again. If you have a relationship with someone, it could be casual, it could be intimate, doesn't matter. And there's nothing the matter between the two of yous, and then up comes something the matter, but one of yous isn't aware of it. That means that it's the other person who's got an awareness of something that's happening, and it's their response to whatever's happening right now. Because if I say something to you that is misconstrued, that's called miscommunication. Because I'm saying what I'm saying. I mean what I say. And the same goes for you. If I have a misinterpretation of the words that are coming out of your mouth, and then I have an emotional reaction to it where I judge you, that's just like there's a demon. I just created a demon. I just manifested a demon because I created a voice within my head that is not accurate to the communication. So then what happens in our communication? I have to say, excuse me, hold on real quick. I think I misunderstood. Can you go back and say that again? Just let me hear that one more time. Right? So you have good communication. Why am I up on this right now? I was talking about, last thing I remember right now is talking to a parent about having a child. You have an infant, intelligent awareness of infinitude. This is a programmable automaton. You have, like, we ought to make a movie, right? This is the movie AI. This is the movie Bicentennial Man. This is the movie, whatever movie. This is the Jetsons. A mom and a dad. Oh, look, honey. Oh, it's so beautiful. And they know exactly what's going on. Like, we have to create a perfect human being, which means that we are parents at the age of 30. So right now, how mature, that's what the idea of perfect is. The idea of a hammer is a perfect hammer when it's used as a hammer. When something is misused for that, if something is misused for something for which it was not intended, that is where deconstruction happens. That happens interpersonally, that happens personally, that happens developmentally, that happens intellectually. My point in all of this, look, I just am continuing to spew whatever's coming into my mind right now, because it's all going to come out. It's all going to get repeated. All right. Momentary pause for station identification. I am that I am. That I am about which you speak. I am that I am. I am your host, Travel Mateus. And if you've known me longer than 3 years-ish or whatever, in my previous existence, it might be easier for you to, refer to me in that same fashion. That's fine. I'm not going to cry about it. But for those of you who are meeting me for the first time, I am Travel Mateus Finley, which means fair warrior who travels bearing God's gifts. That was the name existence gave to me unawares, with my parents unawares. Right? Does that make sense? I don't even know. Let me see if there's even anybody. I didn't pull it up, did I? Let me see if I'll pull it up. Station identification real quick. I'm going to pull up my other channel. I'm totally feeling like it's a Sunday right now, because I'm treating this like a premiere sermon. All right. So the introduction is at this point. The channel is Radio Free Anarchy, and my whole consternation is whether or not to create a brand new channel or just to have a playlist that is the church service, which is probably just what it is. It just is what it is. I doubt that there's going to be anything different in my experience. And yet here I am again right now trying to create content to generate an audience around which I can build a community of my own philosophy. Because what I am going to give to you is not in any textbook. What I'm going to say to you is not, you can't say, hey, travel, like you would have to experience everything that I experienced in order to say what I'm about to say. But as a parent, going back to that idea that I was musing about, what if you were watching a movie and you had a vague idea that it was a family movie or whatever, right? But what if the opening scene makes you feel like these parents just brought this baby out of a Cabbage Patch and said, oh, look, we have one. Look, it's just like, what do we do now? Like, even though I was an intentional Christian man who wanted to forge and shape his children to be aware as Christians, that is, I wanted them to know what our religion was. And by religion, I just simply mean the thing that regulates our life, which is what church does. On a consistent, regular basis, once a week, you have a social gathering that you call church. Not everybody participates in that. People who participate in going to church have a certain opinion about people who say that they're Christians but don't go to church. So you have differences in dogma. Like, you have to go to church to be a Christian. Oh, no, I don't have to. I just go out into nature. I'm Christian. I follow Christ. Blah, 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 blah. Like, no. Okay, so that's the whole thing. The Christ that you're following, I agree with, but that's not the Bible. That's like their version of what you're talking. Like, you're not talking the same language. You cannot, if you're a New Age believer who just says, oh, I follow Christ, I'm a Buddhist, I'm a Christian. Oh, I'm a Christian. If you say I'm a Christian to a Christian, they're wondering, are you Baptist? Are you Presbyterian? And you're going to say, oh, no. I don't go to a church. Then nature is my church. And that person will say, oh, no. That's not in the Bible. Because for the Christian, the justification for the New Age spiritualist is the self. The justification for any Christian, even if you're calling yourself a Christian, you're like putting yourself under a category that is something that you don't want to be. Damn it. What was the So you have these parents who bring out this Cabbage Patch baby and they start to program it. And you're watching it going like, that's really weird. Like, they're treating that baby like it's a programmable entity. Because it is. The energy exchange, the exchange of energy between mother and child and father and mother is the breath of marital union. Or not necessarily marital. I see that's just a colloquialism. I mean, the union of souls, right? If two united souls male and female, of course. I'm just saying they want to create a baby. That's the way you do it. So that's the way I'm going with it. The creation of that intelligent awareness that is going to be embodied is the union of the feminine and the masculine of your and your husband's genetic physiological composition. So that if you understand biologically that the mother could have dis-ease, right? The mother could have a diseased physical ailment that gets passed along to the child. How does that happen? Genetics. But along with that are other physiological, neurological, metaphysical components that thread through your experience. Like you are the product of your parents, anger, love, lack, like you are. Like if you think about what some people say about veganism and well, I mean, it doesn't even have to go into that, but part of it is that when an animal is destroyed by another animal, the consumption of that animal that was dying and being consumed alive, torn apart alive, the animals that are eating another animal in that state of animation, which is the destruction of flesh through carnivorous appetites, right? The genetic expression of the zebra's dying experience of just fear and just fear and just fear. Oh my God, I'm being eaten alive. Just all of that is being consumed by the animal, which then takes on the spirit of that animal. This is not anything new. People talk about that aspect of consuming meat, that you are consuming everything that animal was the moment it died. Just stamp whether or not that fish or that trout or that elk is like having its dying breath. You know, that elk is just wheezing out its dying breath. Thanks to you. And then you go and consume that fear. How do you think that's not going to affect you? And then, unless you exorcise that demon that exists within you now, that is that fear component based upon whatever toxification, whatever toxic exposure you put yourself through. And by toxic, I mean anything that's antagonistic to life. Death is not antagonistic to life. Just go ask a forest. Death, I'm going to say it again. Death is not the enemy. Death is not antagonistic to life. It is essential. Decay is essential. Entropy is essential. That doesn't mean we live in an environment that is running on what's the word I'm looking for? It's not replenish. Unreplenishable sources. Like we live in an environment that is never going to stop being ever. ever. It's never going to stop. Prove me wrong. Just wait till tomorrow. I created this as a response to my previous friend from Moody Bible Institute. She and I would meet in the cafeteria. From what I remember, just having conversations. I don't know if we ever did anything like, I don't know if we ever had a Bible study together or anything like that, but we talked about our who we were. Like the reason why I'm struggling right now is because my ex was so critical of me and said that people were always so critical of me in the same way that she was critical of me. But whenever I had relationships with other people, I never had like poor relationships with people. Like you would think that this woman, I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe if you ever hear this, Heidi, let me know if I was a dick. So I said I stopped believing in space a long time ago in the same way that I stopped believing that Jesus was the only way. It was just something that I changed my mind about. I mean, that's as simple as it is. All right. So then she said, but he is the only way. And I just thought, you just had to say, like, I don't know. Am I triggered? I suppose so, but I'd like to think that this is a good result. I like what I wrote, so I think it's a good result. So let's just jump into this. I hope that this brings you light, life, and laughter. Regardless how you think or what faith you practice, regardless how you think or what faith you practice, we are all on the same journey, which begs the question about what is the journey? The journey is about self-awareness and development. And that is the spoiler alert that you weren't prepared for. If you are listening to the sultry sound of my voice right now, there has got to be a good reason for you to continue listening to the sultry sound of my voice. So I'm not going to take it for granted that you're farther along than I am unless you're doing research, right? Like this is going to be very basic. But again, this communication didn't exist for me. I'm trying to create it for someone else to find so that the meaning to life will be made evident to them as soon as possible. Regardless how you think, regardless what your political position, stance, beliefs, ideologies, regardless what religious expression you identify with, the journey that you're on is my journey and is his journey and is her journey and it is our journey. You and I are on the same journey. And saying that begs the question. It assumes something to be true that I have yet to prove. Okay? The thing that I am assuming to be true that I have proven for myself, but as to whether or not I'm going to build an audience with this philosophy, Bob's your uncle. Is not the that's not the I'm turning a phrase in a different way. It's like mixing a metaphor. That's interesting. Uh you and I are on the same journey. The journey is self-awareness and development. When someone says, and no one's ever said this to me, it's always out there. No one's ever come up to me and said, Travel, man, what's the meaning to life, man? And yet, I think that is the most common human expression, is to ask, what is this for? Like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Right? Right. So here it is. Spoiler alert. Your life has meaning. Your life has purpose. Problem is, I don't know who you are. And I don't know what you are. So why don't you tell me what your purpose is? Why don't you tell me who you are? I think that we'll find out that our stories are so very similar that you'll think, okay, Travel, I get it. Yeah. We're on the same journey. You and I are on the same journey. Your path, however, is yours, just like my path is mine. But understand this from the very get-go. Understand this. If you could make, like, how young would you imagine impressing this ideology upon an authentic, intelligent awareness in a 6-year-old? You are the creator of your life. Everything you feel is how you feel. It's not how it is. Because I might look at that thing and love it. You might look at it and hate it. You are the one who decides whether or not you love or hate. Maybe, again, talking to a 6-year-old, how are you doing this? Like, how could you teach a 6-year-old to be a duck in water when a bully comes along and says something unkind? Because no one's really prepared for that, are they? Someone says something unkind to you, you're not ready for it, you have an emotional reaction, very much like a 5-year-old throwing a fit. One of the things I thought of to remind myself, because again, this is my awakening. I'm still awakening. I'm still waking up. Still rubbing the sand out of my eyes, trying to see what's going on. However, everything that I'm learning and knowing now, my next iteration, the next travel, when this would you call this a season, or would you call this an episode? Right? Because it's season 1. Like, how many seasons is this guy's life? Like, what if every year is a season? So I've had 53 seasons of my life. And every season is made up of 4 3-month iterations, whatever. I'm totally pontificating about imaginary cinematography and cinematic expressions. Okay. How can you impress upon a child not to lose their emotional stability when something becomes a challenge for someone who's young and has a sensitive emotional quotient? two things I thought of that I would say to a kid. Oh, that's what it was. That I'm now going to say to myself because I may have experienced people being unkind to me by saying things about me. But one of the things that I thought of saying was like, oh yeah, what else you got? Like, that's the best you got? Learning that from Steve Martin in the movie Roxanne. That's the best insult you got? Like, who cares? Like, you just can't care. But you have to get to the point of maturity where the caring is less like gale force wind, right? Like, if you think about yourself as a young sapling, as a child, if you think about yourself as a sapling, as a child, and there are storms in your life, the emotional experience makes it feel like this is horrible, but it's the best thing for you in that moment. And it's going to develop strength by tearing sinews, right? That's how you build muscle. You break down the muscle so that it can heal itself and rebuild itself. That's how you build resilience. That's how you become resolute. But some of us have an easier time with that. Some people are able to meditate with no problem whatsoever. And others, including myself, it is like running a marathon. And I'm still trying to get better at it, right? But it's like running a marathon. But some people, it's really simple. They can just meditate. And so for some people, their awareness of self is there. So here's the thing though, right? I would like to think that my personality right now is very typical of someone who is spiritually aware. Like, I'm very gracious toward people, but I've always been that way, which just by anecdotal, happenstance, my ex, that's the one compliment she had given me maybe a couple of times that I can remember. She said, "You are much more forgiving than I am." And that's because the Bible says, he who has been forgiven much forgives much. So guess what? If I am someone who just forgives without holding a grudge, that shows that I have an awareness that I'm going to need forgiveness at some point because I'm human. But as Shakespeare taught us, what was that saying? Shit. I totally lost my train of thought. Oh, as Shakespeare penned, not Kevin Bacon, but Francis Bacon, to err is human. It is absolutely human nature to screw the fuck up. But you know what's harder to do than that? Forgive someone who's smurfed up against you. So the real way to say like divinity is just simply superhumanity. Because that's all there is just we. I only know people with whom I have to do. I have nothing to do with God. Hello, let's have tea and crumpets someday. Hey, what, ho? What ho? You mean you're asleep somewhere? You got, okay, well, whatever. When you wake up, if you want to have tea, like, there's no God. There's no God. You are the creator of your own story. And if you understand that as early as possible, it will give you a perspective of divinity that I have now at 53, and I'm going back and saying, if I knew about this back then, the stuff I could have done. But the good news is, this is just an iteration in the cycle, because we are our own judge, jury, and paroling officer, our purgatory officer. We create our own experience of heaven, hell, and purging the hell out of us so that we stay in a balance of heaven. Heaven is the highest expression of the amount that you can love at that moment, according to your ability. And hell is the most unloving expression of yourself that you could think to do in this moment, unlovingly. That's hell. And you can do that to yourself, or you can do that to other people. Purgatory is your own mental construct of how you are going to develop a better version of yourself. And however long you stay in purgatory, that depends on you. We don't have to make this a Roman Catholic thing. This is just a metaphor, people. It's all metaphor. Come up with another metaphor. Neo, the Matrix, Free Guy. Right? This is what I'm going to leave for my, I have to memorize this. I have to memorize. I must keep reminding myself of this. Because in the shaping of my mind, in the fashion to which I'm about to read to you, and so in doing this, I'm trying to say that I am endorsing. I'm Travel Mateus, and I endorse this message. Travel, this is for you. You and I are on the same journey. Your path, however, is your path. My path is mine. But make no mistake, we are the creator and the hero of our own story. We are the architect and the temple. We are the dreamer and the artist. We have the ability to manifest your highest ideal of what you think you deserve. How happy do you want to be? This is how happy I want to be right now. If I wanted to be happier, I wouldn't be here. I'm trying to express my own philosophy. That's my philosophy. This is my temple. I'm Solomon. I built it. If I'm unhappy with this, you either remodel or you repurpose or you relocate. But you can't stay the same, which is the whole aspect of awareness and development and improvement. Okay? Just to give you a fair example, I think a question could be asked, have you, my dear listener out there, have you ever become aware of a personal character trait with which you are not amused? Do you have something that you are aware of with which you want nothing to do? So, having become aware of this thing, have you ever set about altering or changing yourself from this to that? Because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about personal awareness through developmental improvement. always improving to be the best expression of yourself at every moment, which means you have to be a Jedi Master at all times. A Jedi Master is someone who cannot be moved. It is Gandalf on the bridge, thou shalt not pass. It is a characteristic of your person to be resolute by not being triggered or affected by other disequalized, imbalanced, diseased people. For instance, let's say you want to be better, or let's say you want to be more patient when driving in traffic, right? Like if someone wanted to come to me and they said, "Hey, Travel, I want to really work on some, I heard you're doing some of these, what do they call these, perambulatory awareness therapy. What are we going to do? We're just going to walk around and you're just going to talk to me about how to get better and all that kind of stuff." Yeah, but I'm not going to talk unless you ask me to say something. Like, what do you want from me? I'm here for you. What do you want? How do you want this to go? So if someone said to me, you know what, I really don't know how to be patient. I or like, let's say for instance, let's say somebody said, oh man, I know somebody who just got married, right? Let's just say, for instance, he comes up and he says, hey man, if you mind if we take a walk and go for, and he says, look, man, I am really impatient with my new wife, man. I just am like losing my temper all the time, and I need some help. Like, what do you do? What do you say? You put that person into a situation where his patience is going to get tested without the wife being there per se, right? I mean, you could you're going to delve into, okay, Bartholomew. Do you understand why that happens? Why is it? Okay, first of all, why are you here? Let's get that first. Let's get that clear, right? Restate for the record so that you can hear yourself say why you're here. I am here because I am seeking developmental awareness to improve my patience with my wife. Okay, that becomes something that you write down on a 3x5 card and you look at as much as you can remember to do it. So if that's the first thing, right? What I'm doing right now in my philosophy, man, it is toasty in here. Woohoo! Okay, what I'm doing right now, my philosophy. I don't know my philosophy. Let's see if that helps it at all. What I'm doing right now in my philosophy is letting you know the way I think it is. So everything yeah. All right. What I'm doing right now is I'm instructing my younger self, however, Elizabeth, my subconscious feminine mind, however, Elizabeth is going to program this thread of memory or this thread of existence to influence my younger married self. This is what I would have done had I been aware when I was newly married. All right. So Bartholomew comes to me and he says, I need help being patient with my wife. Right. I'm not going to say, I want you to think of all the things that you love about your wife. Try to think of all the things you love about your. No. Okay. That's not me. I'm not doing that. Why are you here? What is it that you want? Right? I am here to continue to develop and improve myself by practicing patience in all things. Okay. And in this context, for the good of my wife. Okay. For I am here to continue to develop and improve myself. I tend to think that spiritually aware and spiritually intelligent, spiritually mature souls, because man, if you know how to love in balance when you're 17, then do it, right? I mean, be that. If I'm concerned about myself, I don't know, man. I don't even know how to say this. Like, I don't have a bone. I don't feel the need to correct people anymore. I used to. And then you remove that factor. And then it's like it's like a clogged up river. I've been backed up way, way, way back up there, emotionally backed up, so that all of my love, joy, peace, patience kind of was just trickling out. Like there were times I was, but there were also times when I was entirely impatient with people, entirely impatient, unkind, arrogant. I get it. Yeah, I know. But the thing is, how old am I? Right? Everything, right? Everything. What's your age again? Act your age. What's my age again? How old am I? Like, that doesn't mean anything. Ultimately, you want me to give you an example? I'll give you an example of how a 75-year-old man behaves like a 7-year-old who interrupts an adult conversation because he wants to be included in the conversation. I was tending bar, having a conversation with two adults. I was in the midst of a sentence when Charlie over here says, "Oh yeah, I went down," and started talking about his experience with what I was saying, but completely interrupted me. And I sat there and I thought to myself, what are the, like, am I supposed to be the one that goes, I'm sorry, Charlie, adults are talking right now. I was just in the middle of a sentence. You do know that you just ejaculated all over my sentence, right? Did you ask for permission? How old are you? 75? How old are you? 7? Okay. You have emotionally stunted adults. This is for them. There's an amount of self-awareness they don't have at this moment. So I would have said to a person who came to me and said, Travel, I want to be more patient with my wife. Okay, I'm like, here we go. Write this down. I am here to continue to develop and improve myself, not correct her, not point out her deficiencies, her sins. No, guess what you do? Guess what you do? You like forgive that shit. That stuff doesn't like make you. It's not what she does. That you hate. It's how she judges you for what she does that you hate. And you don't know how to understand that that's what's happening because you're 23 years old and you could only, like, it doesn't matter. The only thing that I could say about my existence at that moment was, I don't understand why this is so hard. I'm not saying anything confusing and you're confusing the hell out of me. Like, why is that? Ugh. Okay. So this is for travel. This is for my myself 35 years ago. When I get married and come into an awareness of something that I need to evaluate as to whether or not I have to apply it to my life. So what I mean by that is simply because I'm accused of something doesn't mean that that thing is true, right? An anecdote to give you something recent. I was on a 5-day holiday with a friend, and she felt the need to confront me about my tendency to interrupt her, but not within the context of my interrupting her. Right? So what I mean to say is, when she said to me, hey, I need to say something, you interrupt me a lot, I wasn't just interrupting her. It was not even nothing like, so the programming that I'm now getting into my mind with Elizabeth, pick up on all those little neurons and shit, because like it's formulating in my mind. I have to imprint the question for the narcissist is, what would you like me to do with this information? I realize that you're telling me that I interrupt you. What would you like me to do with this information? Actually, ask the second question. First question is, I'm sorry. I apologize. Did I just interrupt you? Because the answer to that question is going to be no. Because the narcissist brings shit up out of context so that you're like, I don't remember doing that. But you're telling me that I do that. But I don't think that that's the way I do things. So like what you're saying, so then that for me was a psychological warfare. I'm describing my own psychological warfare where my ex was saying, you do this. And my question or my challenge to the narcissist is, who told you that? Because I'm going to tell you that's not why I'm doing this. Case in point, whenever we got into an argument and I felt my temperature rising, I would try to trigger myself with a safe word by calling her sweetheart. She didn't interpret it that way. Now, I'm just going to say it. That's all it is. We had a conflict, or we had a tempestuous relationship. And when the conflict came up, at some point, I developed a safe word for myself to say, What is it going to take to remind you that you love this person? Sweetheart. Okay, sweetheart. Okay, sweetheart. Yes, sweetheart. So for me, I'm saying it like that so I remember I don't want to kill her. She's good. I love her. Sweetheart, love. But that's not the way she interpreted it. And then she told me what my original intent was. And I'm thinking, that's not why I said, but you're like, so the whole thing is that she is that way. So if you're in a relationship with someone with whom you might think, or if you are in a relationship with someone who is, in your opinion, possibly narcissistic, all you have to do is just take a breather. Write down 5 things that you find attractive in a woman or a man or whatever, like whatever your persuasion is, whatever person, the person with whom you would be most attracted, to whom you would be most attracted. Describe that person in 5 words. Okay. This is your exercise. I'm just making this up right now. How do you decode your relationship if you think that there's an aspect of narcissism? This is it. First step. Write down your idea of the most attractive person that you could think of. Now, the spoiler alert for that is that this is my own contrivance. If you look at those 5 characteristic traits, and I want you to do this, right? If you're here listening to the sultry sound of my voice right now, please do this exercise because I would like you to actually leave feedback in the comment section. So there's obligation here. Please do this, please, because otherwise this is just theory, even though I have about a 99% success rate in my evaluations with this. If you write down your ideal person, 3 to 5 words. Don't stress about it. Take a moment and do that. Okay, push pause. All right, now we're back. Did you just describe yourself? Because I think you did. And if you aren't aware that you did, just give it some time and let it ruminate, because you'll begin to see that the characteristics that you desire are characteristics that you have. Characteristics that you have. This is how you understand who you are. This is how you understand why you are. That would be an interesting exercise for a classroom of 6-year-olds ish. You do it with adults. And you say, and the first question is, describe yourself in 5 words. And then describe the person you think you would like to marry. I don't know if that's leading the witness already, because you're going to be seeing that your brain is going to make your brain's going to pick up on the fact that you're writing the exact same descriptions down. My point is, if you write down the characteristic traits of your ideal partner, I think that there is a high probability that you have those same characteristic traits that you imagine are your partners. That's not saying the person that you're actually with has those characteristics, because the point of my story is that I wasn't in a relationship with the person who thought the same way I did, because this person liked to start fights. This person liked to introduce confusion. This person liked to, so one of the anti-characteristics of the narcissist is there's no judgment. There's no judgment. I don't have anything to say to you unless you ask me. Like, oh, hey, you know what? You know what? Like, so this woman that I had this 5-day relationship with, we had known each other for years before, but we decided to meet for 5 days, and it was the it was an amazing, I'll just say it was an amazing experience. Not the least of which is the insight to understanding that I am dealing with a narcissist, because this person would bring up something out of context, so I had nowhere to go. So do you know what I did in that moment that I think is absolutely genius? So if you're in a situation with a narcissist, the best way to handle a narcissist is to ask the narcissist questions that make it hear what its behavior is doing. So if a narcissist comes and says, you are X, Y, and Z, just having an awareness of what's happening because you suspect, ask that person to repeat what they said. I'm sorry, I just want to make sure I understand you, right? I want to make sure I understand. The responsibility of communication is all on me, right? If this goes south, it's all my fault because I'm trying to understand something. Can you repeat that one more time so that they can hear themselves say again what their accusation is, which really psychologically is their own demon trying to keep the attention and the spotlight off of it. So that's what the narcissist does, the narcissist is always on the correction, always on the attack. A person who does not attack, a person who does not point out, a person who does not nag, I would say is not a narcissist. All right. Now, programming myself oh, if I only knew then what I understand now. I am programming my awareness so that these concepts that we're talking about right now become echoes of deja vu or intuition when I am in this relationship with this woman again, in this iteration of my life. So the younger version of myself struggled against this relationship just because it didn't make sense. And so I think okay. So I remember struggling with remembering what was important to her in this argument, right? Because that would be her accusation against me. And I'm not saying that everything that she said about me is incorrect. I'm not saying that at all. I think that there were a lot of things that she pointed out, which she explained as the fact that I was a stubborn ass mule and she had to hit me over the head with a 2x4. She had to make it hurt in order for me to understand that. I mean, look. Okay. But that becomes an awareness of patience and diplomacy with not being angry with a person for being as immature as I was, but being empathetic. Why? Because you were me 12 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, 6 months ago, maybe, right? But I remember struggling with, it's so hard to remember because these things don't always come up. Like our conflicts, like the way I thought about it was, when was the last time we fought about this? When was the last time we fought about this? And I was like, I think it's like been like 6 months. Like this doesn't happen all the time. I can't remember. Like it's so hard to like, no. What I should have done right then at that moment is write this down. I am here to continue to develop and improve myself by practicing patience in all things. That is going to be the awareness that my younger self will now have, because I am programming myself by iterating. Like this is going to be now up on my wall. I am here to continue. Like, so then everything that I know will be available for my younger self to access as early as he wishes. He just needs to know he can do it. Elizabeth? Yes, master. This is Travel 3.0. Hello, master. Good morning. Yeah, so Elizabeth, what's the like? She's my fortress of solitude. All of that information that Clark Kent had, that Kal-El had, all of those crystal information of memories that he could just drop in and replay and 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 watch it over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Like that's what our lives are until we learn the balance of the Jedi. So that when I can be a fair warrior, oh my goodness, right? Like this is it. Okay, so all right. I would like to think that this is true for everyone. Please look into the meaning of your name, and I think you will find that it is who you are. In the same way that I asked you to describe yourself in 5 words, and I'll say, is that you? Yeah, that is me. In certain shades. I'm not perfect. Like I had so many people poo-poo me in my Uber rides when I was manifesting these conversations. And I would say, that's you, isn't it? And they're like, yeah, it is me, but I still have a long way to go or whatever. I'm like, I don't need you to qualify anything. It's just the fact that you are that. That is who you are. And so then, ipso facto, prestidigitages, how do you make sense of this? Let me ask you a question. What's your opinion of this? My name means fair warrior who travels bearing God's gifts. That's what my name is. That just the happenstance of a willy-nilly universe? I don't think so. I don't think so. So now my younger iteration needs to understand the meaning of his name as early as possible, because when he then gets to this relationship, he is a fair warrior who will diplomatically say, you're behaving like a narcissist. If you want this relationship to continue, knock that shit off. Like that's the person I want to be. Like then I want to go back into the marriage. Right? What if you could, I would never, I'd never marry you again, never do this again. Yeah, I would. I would do it again, but better. Do it again, but better, which was what every day was for me anyway. Do it again, but better. I'm loving her the best I can. Well, like Radiohead says, you can try the best you can. Try the best you can. The best you can, that's good enough. All right. We're talking about developing personal awareness for the improvement of personal awareness, which is always in need of development and improvement, right? Which means you're always in balance. So that when those gale force winds come up, when those difficulties, when that job loss or whatever it is, those curveballs, right? You step in, you swing early, right? I mean, what? We'll watch it because I have it. We'll watch it. Uh, let's see. What's the crack a lacking, man? Okay. All right. What am I thinking about right now? Spirituality.
Do you know what the secret of life is?
No, what?
This.
Your finger?
One thing. Just one thing.
That's great, but what's the one thing?
That's what you gotta figure out. Do you know what the secret of life is?
No, what?
This.
Your finger?
One thing. Just one thing.
That's great, but what's the one thing?
That's what you gotta figure out.
That's great, but what's the one thing?
That's what you gotta figure out. Do you know what the secret of life is?
No, what?
This.
Your finger?
Do you know what the secret of life is?
No, what?
This.
Your finger?
One thing. Just one thing.
That's great, but what's the one thing?
That's what you gotta figure out. Do you know what the secret of life is?
No, what?
This.
Your finger?
One thing. Just one thing.
That's great, but what's the one thing?
That's what you gotta figure out.